So today we're going to be working on an Aprilia RSV4 RF. It's a 2017. So what we're going to be working on today is we're going to be doing the spark plugs. To do that, you got to take off the bearings, the seat, and you got to get access to underneath the tank. So just take off the bolts you see over here, the ones that hold the screw in the back panel. We also disconnected the battery just in case, because the electrical, it's the tank's held on by the one screw, and then the bolts over here. So we're gonna start with that. So to take off the tank, you also gotta unplug your sensors over here. This is just the pull tab, and on the side over here you push down and just kind of wiggle it out. There you go. Once this is free, you can loosen up the bolts and lift up the tank. Be careful when you lift up the tank, because there's all the fuel lines and all the other sensors. So
I hate this one, man. Oh. Yeah, so just point it.
So to take off the tank, you're gonna have to disconnect these two hoses. This one's just a little clamp where you pinch and pull down. This one's something similar, but a lot of people destroy these ones, and they usually replace it. But sometimes what you do is just pinch and then try to decompress it and then pry it open. So these lines are also connected to the canister, and the other one goes down to the bottom of the exhaust. There's also another fuel line on the other side of the tank that you gotta disconnect, which is gonna be under here on this side. So over here, this one right over here, and then we're gonna be working in the airbox, which is that. So when you lift up the tank, there's gonna be this fuel line right over here. Underneath, there's this little tab. So push this tab and try to pull it out. But when you do that, make sure you put something underneath, because it's your gas line.
That's it.
So have it like that, and I usually hold it up or try to plug it up with something. So to take off the seat, you just lift up and slide out, because the tail end is stuck over here. So if we're looking, these are going to be your spark plugs right over here. This is your air box. Over here is your ABS modules, and these are all your other harnesses and all that. When doing the fuel tank, make sure you can put something on something stable and sturdy. You don't want to leave it, and it's better when it's empty, because you don't want to be lifting a full tank. So what we're going to be doing is taking off the airbox covers. We're going to have to take off these screws right over here. All of them all the way around. There's also two over here. Sometimes people unplug these, but we're gonna see if we can get away with that.
Yeah, we just go like this.
All the screws are the same, so don't worry about it, but they're different from the panel ones. So just remember, these ones are for the airbox. So when you get those screws off, this is gonna be the airbox and throttle bodies. These are your stacks and your throttle over here. So we usually put something in there just to make sure nothing falls in. And over here was the filter. So that's the filter. It's not too bad, but there's 12K on it, so this is pretty much the first service, and we're gonna change it up. So we didn't disconnect anything, because everything is connected to the ECU and the computer, so we don't want to be fucking with that. If anything, we just take off the bolts just to get access without unplugging the harnesses. So to take off the velocity sacks, there's two screws on each side. It's on a 4mm Allen key. We're just using this T-bar because it's a little bit easier to get to. They're just hand tight, so you don't need to use crazy pressure. So there's one here, one there. There's the two on each over there, and then over there. So when you take off the velocity stacks, these have little grooves over here, and they match these screws over here. When we also put them off to the side, we just kind of mimic the style that we have over there. So that's kind of how it should look. Next, what we're gonna do is take off the screw over here, because we're not gonna unplug the sensors. And we also stuffed the throttle bodies with some tissue, because we don't want anything going in there. There's also this little hose with a clamp over here. You want to take that off. That's attached to the airbox. Here, give me a... So there's also another hose on the other side, and this sensor is connected by a zip tie. that goes around. We just cut those because we're not unplugging anything.
That's it.
Now with all the hoses unplugged, we're able to lift up the inner air box.
That's it.
So this is the inner air box. You can twist and turn just to get to the two other spark plugs over here and over here, and this and this. So the air box is also connected by this little tab over here. You just pinch and then pop it out. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing next is the spark plugs. So today we're going to be using NGK iridium plugs. So as soon as you take off the one bolt, you can pull out the boot for the new spark plugs. You can see that it's right over there. We're going to be using a 5/8 spark plug remover tool, and we're just going to take out the spark plug. With this one, there's a magnet inside the actual socket removal tool, so it actually lifts up the spark plug while you remove it. When you do the new spark plugs as well,
it's only like a little bit turn, huh?
Yeah. It's only hand tight. So these are only supposed to be hand tight. There's barely any force behind them as well.
There's no force.
So when you use the new spark plug as well, I usually put a little bit of anti-seize right over here, and this cap is actually removable. And so a lot of people forget to remove this cap that goes on the top side of the boot. Also inside the boot, we're going to use dielectric grease, just a fingernail just over there, just to help create a better contact. And once again, we only do one spark plug at a time because you don't want to get overwhelmed. And that's
like 12K in it.
That's the spark plug right over here, 12K. Look how fouled it is. So that's just a comparison between the new and the old one. So, oh, sorry. It's gonna be that end over here and that end over here. Also, with the new ones as well, they already come pre-gapped as well. So usually that right over there is usually spec when you buy it, but we don't have a gapper tool, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna be okay. They should be the same.
Yeah.
We're using copper anti-seize over here, and you just want to put a little bit on the thread over here, and then we're gonna put a little dielectric grease over here. We're gonna start with hand threading it a little bit right now, and then if you don't have a torque tool, it's just a quarter turn with these. So you don't want to over torque it at all.
This is
dielectric grease. We just put it on top of the boot over here, and now we're just gonna put this plug on, and it should just pop in, and you should hear a little click. Once you hear that it's clicked, you know it's seated. So with all 4 spark plugs changed, we're just gonna reverse what we did. So we're gonna put in the airbox filter over here with the boots, zip tie everything that we took off, and we're gonna put the stacks after, the seats, and the panel. So we'll show you when it's done. We're gonna start the bike, and we'll do a little cold start up. So we got the lower airbox back installed, everything's hooked up. Now we're just doing the velocity stacks. So like I said, they have these little 2 notches and they line up. And same thing, we position them how we're gonna put them back in. So we did the 2 closer ones, and then we're gonna do the 2 back ones. Here you can see that we're installing the same air filter. We're gonna do the next one. Still pretty clean. So when you install the air filter too, they usually have a little arrow or an indication telling you where it goes and where it sits. So everything's back installed. We got the velocity stacks and we got the filter. Now we can close it up. Close it up. When you close it up, make sure your hoses are okay too, because there's still some gas in them. And we're just gonna plug everything back in. So we put all the screws back. Once again, this is plastic, so be careful screwing it in. You don't want to crack the plastic. This is going to cost you more money in the long run. So with everything double checked and everything's tightened, we're going to put the fuel tank back on, and we're going to reconnect the hoses. So with this one too, is we tried keeping it as well, so we're just going to try to pinch it back and reuse it. So this is the bike. So everything's good to go. We hooked everything up. The tank's back on. And now let's see if it works.
Oh, we got chicken in my phone. Shit.